Chapter 1240. Magical Zhang Yi and Zhang Chong came in a hurry. But faster than them were the little ones. Little Egg jumped into Hushy's arms, rubbed her neck and said proudly, "Mother, we have found a lot of rare spiritual herbs and spiritual beast eggs." Hushy touched the little one's head to show encouragement, and Zhang Yi and Zhang Chong, who came in a hurry, also discovered the miserable situation of Jin Ziyu and the other three. They were covered in bruises, and Qian Dazhuang seemed to be dying with blood still coming out of his mouth. Zhang Yi asked nervously, "What happened? Brother Shiyu, are you all right?" Jin Ziyu took the lead and said, "We accidentally entered the rank 5 magical beast area, and we managed to escape with all our might, so we were injured a little bit. We happened to meet Shiyu here." Zhang Yi was relieved when he heard that brother Shiyu, whom he admired, was neither injured nor in danger. Zhang Chong frowned suspiciously. He looked at the wounds on Jin Ziyu and others. This doesn't seem like the wounds caused by a magical beast, right? Such a thought was just fleeting. In any case, it was good that several of them were not injured. Just as they were talking, Feng Yuan and the others also hurried back. They were shocked to see the miserable state of Qian Dazhuang and the others. "Senior Shiyu, what's going on?" Hushy didn't answer Feng Yuan's words, but she threw out a bottle of elixir. "Heal them first. We don't have much time. After the rest tonight, we will enter the rank 5 magical beast area." Jin Ziyu looked at Qian Dazhuang's near-death wound with a worried and pleading look on his face. In his opinion, it was impossible to heal such a serious injury overnight. However, what greeted him was the cold and cruel smile of Shiyu. This young man would not stop for strangers. If they couldn't keep up with her pace, they could only be left behind. Seeing Feng Yuan hurriedly taking out medicinal pills to treat Qian Dazhuang, Jin Ziyu sighed softly. Boss. Jin Ziyu was still sleepy, but Qian Dazhuang's excited voice could be heard faintly in his ears. He slowly opened his eyes, and what caught his eye was Qian Dazhuang's dark and healthy face with some red spots. He grinned, showing his white teeth, stretched out his hands and made a Popeye pose. He said loudly, "Boss, did you see? I have recovered, fully recovered. Ha ha ha, I told you Shiyu's elixir is amazing, right?" Qian Dazhuang was notoriously loud, and everyone was woken up by this shout. Chen Xiaofeng and Hong'an were excited when they saw Qian Dazhuang who had recovered. Later, they found that their injuries had completely healed. Even better, they were refreshed and in better condition than before the injury. Chen Xiaofeng looked at the empty bottle, and he muttered in amazement, "Is this the efficacy of the best quality pills? The upper-grade medicinal pills of the Doctors' Association can't compare with this at all." Zhang Yi nodded without hesitation. His eyes were full of admiration and trust for Shiyu. How can the Doctors' Association be compared with Brother Shiyu? Brother Shiyu can cure the diseases that the Doctors' Association cannot cure. Brother Shiyu can refine the medicine that the Doctors' Association can't. Brother Shiyu is much more powerful than the sanctimonious old guys in the Doctors' Association. Zhang Chong covered his brother's mouth and whispered, "You can't talk nonsense like this. Especially in the academy, you hear me?" Chapter 1241. Why all the fuss? Zhang Yi pouted and muttered, "Humph, they are just worse than Brother Shiyu." Hushy fluttered down from the top of the tree. Jin Ziyu walked in front of her, and he said with a face full of guilt, "Shiyu, I'm sorry I dragged you down, but I still thought you would be cruel to not let Dazhuang heal." Hushy glanced at him and interrupted him. "You're just worried about your brother. No need to apologize. Besides, with your ability, you can't drag me down yet." These words were domineering without giving face to Jin Ziyu, but Jin Ziyu felt relieved for no reason. He looked at Hushy with gratitude. After being driven to Huang Medical Branch, his life was full of despair and grief. However, since the appearance of this young man, something seemed to have changed. She used medical skills. She used cultivation. Is there really hope? While thinking in a trance, Qian Dazhuang's voice suddenly came without hesitation. "Shiyu, I heard that you are the young master of Xingda Hall. Does Xingda Hall have a medicine called bone muscle enhancement pill? Can you sell me a bottle of the best bone muscle enhancement pill? I'm willing to pay no matter how much it cost. I will owe you if my crystal stones aren't enough, but I will definitely pay you back in the future." Hushi glanced at the stunned Jin Ziyu, then at the anxious Qian Dazhuang. She glanced at Little Egg, and Little Egg immediately reached out and grabbed knowingly. A bottle of medicinal pills appeared in his little paw. The short claw threw it hard, and the porcelain bottle drew a parabola and fell in Qian Dazhuang's hands. It was a completely careless move. Qian Dazhuang was startled. He hurriedly reached out to grab it. A drop of cold sweat ran down his forehead. This is the best bone muscle enhancement pill. In Miracle Healer City, no, it's the best quality pill that everyone is raving about in the entire Miluo continent. Now, I actually own a whole bottle. Am I dreaming? Little Egg was wondering why Qian Dazhuang was holding the porcelain vase, as if holding a rare treasure. His hands were even trembling. Isn't it just a bottle of medicinal pills? There is even no place in the void that they can only be piled directly in the Lingxiao Palace. Why all the fuss? Little Egg's little head couldn't understand it, but he remembered that he had been thinking about the food cooked by his mother recently, and he hadn't drugged for several days. So the little paw grabbed again, but this time he grabbed a dozen bottles. He threw them to Little Golden Dragon, Little Fox, and Little Dumb Cow respectively. Under the stunned gaze of everyone, these little ones were crunching the best quality pills overflowing with spirit like eating soybeans. Qian Dazhuang looked at the bottle full of sweat in his hands. Then he looked, with a tearful face, at the little ones eating the pills while complaining about the taste. A bottle of sweat-soaked baby medicinal pills in his hand, and looked at how these little guys kowtowed while still disapproving of the taste, and burst into tears. This is too hateful. Bone muscle enhancement pill, it's useless to him. Just as he was complaining, a young man's transparent voice suddenly came from Qian Dazhuang's ears. But it's useful for you guys. Qian Dazhuang snapped back to his senses, no longer caring about the little guys who were eating the pills. He stared straight at Shiyu with big eyes. What did you just say? Hushi half smiled, and she glanced at Jin Ziyu who was tense and straightened. Chun Xiaofeng and Hong'an also came back to their senses. They quickly asked, Shiyu, how do you know that bone muscle enhancement pill is useless for boss? Do you know what illness does boss have? Chapter 1242. Never betray. Qian Dazhuang also regained his senses at this time. He immediately squeezed the bone muscle enhancement pill in his hand and said urgently, But Shiyu, you don't know that boss meridians were damaged a few years ago. If he can take the medicinal pills that can repair meridians, it can definitely. Hushi sneered and interrupted him. Her deep eyes looked at Jin Ziyu. I think he knows better than anyone that the damage to the meridians is only a symptom, not the real cause. Otherwise, he would not drink poison to stop the poison for so long. Jin Ziyu shuddered violently. His hoarse voice was as if broken. How did you know? Hushi hadn't spoken yet, but Zhang Yi said with a face of I told you. I've already said that Brother Shiyu's medical skills are invincible. My illness was so strange back then. Brother Shiyu could also see it at a glance. Jin Ziyu's eyes trembled violently. A layer of redness appeared in his eyes. Tears were about to flow out because of his excitement. His body and lips were trembling, and the muscles on his face could not be controlled, so he shivered for a long time before finally putting together a sentence. Can you heal my body? Hushi put her arms around her chest and chuckled. What do you think? Jin Ziyu bent his knees and knelt down in front of her with a thud. His choked and hoarse voice condensed his pain and hope over the years. Shiyu, please help me heal. Qian Dazhuang and the other two were still in a daze, but when they saw Jin Ziyu kneeling down, they finally realized something. Qian Dazhuang said in disbelief. Can it really be cured? Boss Jin's illness can really be cured? No one answered his words. Chun Xiaofeng and Hong'an didn't hesitate as they knelt down and kowtowed to Hushi. Although Qian Dazhuang's reaction was slow, he wasn't stupid. He quickly realized it. He also followed suit and said loudly, Shiyu, as long as you can cure the boss illness, I, Qian Dazhuang, are willing to be your servant and go through hell with you without hesitation. The expression on Hushi's face didn't change much. She glanced at Jin Ziyu and said slowly, I don't mind saving people, as long as the person being saved is not someone I hate. However, I won't try to save a stranger and get myself into a mess. Jin Ziyu, do you understand what I mean? Jin Ziyu shuddered. The hope in his eyes slowly extinguished, turning into a deadly despair. But hush, he said again. After the mission is over, I can give you a chance. Tell me what happened. As long as you don't hide anything, I will treat you. Jin Ziyu raised his head suddenly. He said tremblingly, Even if it will get you killed after knowing the truth? Yes. Hushi nodded decisively. I'm not afraid of being killed, I'm just afraid of saving the wrong person. Jin Ziyu's eyes suddenly became hot. His red eyes looked directly at Hushi, and he said hoarsely, Okay. Shiyu, as long as you can cure my illness, I, Jin Ziyu, are willing to follow you and never betray. Hushi smiled lightly. She was like a scorching sun, making people unconsciously eager to get closer, but also afraid of being burned by the splendor. I'll wait and see. The surprised cheers of the three came from their ears. Jin Ziyu slammed his head down, his hands clenched into fists, and a hot tear seeped into the soil. Chapter 1243. It's not that hard. Chen Xiaofeng on the left increases the spiritual power barrier. Zhang Chong on the right, don't let it rush out. Feng Yuan, is the powder ready? Hurry up and spread it out. Why are you so stupid? Attacking the magical beast like this will definitely drive it crazy. Can't you all kill it in one move? Roar. The sky-shattering roar resounded in the space. The four-horned rhino had red eyes, and its movements were frantic. A cloud of smoke was exhaled from its nose. Then a flame shot out from its mouth toward the surrounding people. Chen Xiaofeng and the others all looked pale, but there was no fear in their eyes. They all looked ready. At the critical moment, a purple whip shadow descended from the sky, blocking the flame effortlessly. The purple vine opened a small opening, greedily and contentedly swallowing the flame. After a moment, the deadly flame disappeared without a trace. What are you still waiting for? Little Golden Dragon, who was flying in the air, shouted angrily. Boss has already helped you block the dying counterattack of the four-horned rhino. Go and kill it right now. Only then did everyone wake up. Seeing the four-horned rhino gasping for breath and couldn't stand still, they were overjoyed. The sword light flickered. Spiritual power was scattered all around. Murderous aura was intense. In the end, Qian Dezhuang swung the giant hammer, roared wildly, and slammed it down at the four-horned rhinoceros. With a loud bang, the skull of the four-horned rhino shattered, dying instantly. Happy cheers resounded through the sky. Under the shade of a tree not far away, the beautiful young man, dressed in clean blue and white clothes, lay lazily in the shadows, flipping through the ancient books in his hands from time to time. Jin Ziyu, who was sitting next to Hushi, did not participate in the battle. He looked at Shiyu with gratitude. Shiyu, thank you for giving them the opportunity to improve their strength so quickly. Hushi just smiled lightly and didn't mean to answer. Jin Ziyu looked at her beautiful and delicate face from the side, but he couldn't help showing a trace of confusion in his eyes. Shiyu, what is your true cultivation? Hushi smiled and didn't answer his words, but she closed the book in her hand and waved it. Thank you for your book. If there are any more of this type, you can bring them to me in the future. This ancient book was accidentally given to Hushi by Jin Ziyu. It recorded neither cultivation methods nor pill formula, but some interesting anecdotes. What interested Hushi was that in addition to some remote places in Miluo continent, the ancient book also mentioned a small town in Siam continent. Many of the customs described in it were completely different from Miluo continent, but they also had a vague and distant feeling, which made people wonder if this was true or false. Jin Ziyu immediately smiled and said, I have seen this kind of book on the third floor of the Academy Library. If you are interested in Shiyu, you can borrow it with your points. Academy Library? While they were talking, Zhang Yi, Qian Dezhuang and the others were already running over excitedly. Zhang Yi held a snow Ganoderma grass in his hand and handed it to Hushi with a smile on his face. Brother Shiyu, this is already the 5th snow Ganoderma grass? Hee, it turns out that picking snow Ganoderma grass is not so hard. Zhang Chong and Chen Xiaofeng, who came behind Zhang Yi, staggered at their feet. Their faces looked complicated and strange. That is a heaven-level mission. The disability rate is 100%, and the death rate is at least 20%. Chapter 1244. Zhang Yi actually said that this mission is not difficult? Well, it's not difficult. This is the 5th snow Ganoderma grass we have obtained, and it only took 1 day. If it is a difficult mission, I won't even admit it myself. If I tell other students that the heaven-level mission is very simple, I bet I will be beaten up badly. Dazhuang dragged the huge 4-horned rhino back and said to Zhang Yi with a stupid smile. Yeah, I also find it very strange. Why is the heaven-level mission so simple this time? Shiyu doesn't even need to do anything. We alone can get rid of those magical beasts. Are those magical beasts really rank 6? Could it be that we got the rank wrong? Nonsense. Chen Xiaofeng glared at the stupid burly man and said, You idiot, don't you understand? When dealing with the magical beasts, if it wasn't for Shiyu to protect us with enchantment, do you think we can really fight the rank 6 magic beast? Like the last counterattack flame of the 4-horned rhino, do you think you can stop it? Oh yeah. Dazhuang suddenly recalled it and looked at Shiyu with admiration. Shiyu, thanks to you and the commands of your spirit beasts, it's such a pleasure to do mission with you. As he spoke, he threw the 4-horned rhino in front of Little Egg and said with a grin, Here, didn't you say you want monster essence pill and magical beast meat? I'll give you this too. Every time they picked snow Ganoderma grass, they would definitely encounter the guardian magical beast. Sometimes 1 and sometimes 2 or 3. At first, when Dazhuang and others saw rank 6 magical beast, they could only tremble, let alone organize an offensive. They wholeheartedly hoped that Shiyu or her spiritual pets could help so that they could finish this mission without breaking a sweat. However, at this time, Shiyu reversed her attitude of taking care of the overall situation. She sat on the side leisurely and let Little Golden Dragon command them to fight the magical beasts together. The precious best quality pills were provided in unlimited quantities. The simple combined strike formation taught by Little Golden Dragon on the spot. In times of crisis, Shiyu and Purple Abyss Vine would assist. Slowly, everyone found that rank 6 magical beast was not so difficult to deal with. From trembling in fear to slowly becoming more and more handy. Even when facing the rank 5 magical beast, they could easily win with their own strength. The only one who did not participate in the battle was Jinziyu, because Shiyu determined that his illness would worsen every time he used spiritual power. Therefore, Jinziyu, who was on the sidelines, knew better than anyone what Dazhuang and the others had gained in this battle. Fang Yun and one of his friends' strengths were promoted from the Meridian stage intermediate stage to the later stage. Zhang Yi could better grasp the breath of magical beasts to predict their next moves, and he could sense the low-rank magical beasts' emotions and subdue them. Dazhuang and Zhang Chong, although they had not advanced, their combat experience had improved by leaps and bounds. Now they could join forces to fight against the rank magical beast. Before that, Dazhuang even found it difficult to fight against the rank 4 magical beast. The ones who benefited the most were definitely Chen Xiaofeng and Hong En. Especially Chen Xiaofeng, after taking a large number of best quality pills, his gold core would form soon. And all this was brought to them by Shiyu. Chapter 1245. Advancement. Therefore, everyone present gave Little Egg and Shiyu the magical beasts, monster essence pills and the snow Ganoderma grass without any hesitation and unwillingness. The only thing left in their hearts was gratitude. Little Egg happily put the 4-horned rhino into the void. Then he rolled his eyes and whispered a few words in Hushy's ear. Hushy smiled and whispered in his ear. Little Egg stood up immediately, walked to the crowd with his short legs, threw a few medicine bottles on the ground, raised his chin and said proudly, Mother said that we can't take other people's things for nothing. So these medicinal pills are all given to you. It's just to exchange the magical beast meats and monster essence pills with you. The whole place was silent. The wind blew through the leaves and made rustling sounds. Suddenly, Dazhuang swallowed his saliva and looked nervously at Little Egg. Really? Give them all to us? Of course. Little Egg waved his paws with a look of a local tyrant. I didn't choose these medicinal pills at random. Mom said that it is good for you to advance. After taking them, you will advance to the gold core stage. And you guys, the impurities in your bodies will be removed. Your cultivation will not be stagnant in the future. The people who were being pointed looked at the pills with even more fiery eyes. They could no longer keep calm. Little Egg smiled. He ignored everyone's reaction and ran back to Hushi to ask for her praise. Little Egg's words were astonishingly accurate. That night, Chen Xiaofeng, who took the medicinal pills given by Little Egg, began to advance. The advancement lasted for 3 hours. Qian Dazhuang, Hong'an and Jin Ziyu all guarding nervously beside him. From the starry night until the dawn of the sky, the brilliant colorful lights emanated from Chen Xiaofeng's body, and the air was filled with a strong spiritual power. If it wasn't for the purple abyss vine enchantment, it would have attracted countless magical beasts. Chen Xiaofeng opened his eyes. He channeled spiritual power in his body, feeling the gold core in his Dantian. Then he raised his head in a daze. Seeing Jin Ziyu and Qian Dazhuang's worried gazes, Chen Xiaofeng suddenly felt a sore nose and choked. Boss, I've advanced. I've really reached the gold core stage. It's great. So great. Qian Dazhuang danced with joy, then he couldn't help wiping his tears and laughed. So many years, after so many years. Some of us finally took a step forward. Woo-woo. I always feel that we're about to come out of that quagmire. Chen Xiaofeng stood up, walked in front of Hushi and knelt down straight. With tears in his eyes, he bent down deeply. His forehead slammed on the rough ground. The tears seeped into the soil. His hoarse voice carried indescribable sadness, fear and gratitude. Shiyu, thank you. Really thank you. Hushi frowned and said indifferently, can you simply kneel to someone else as a man? Your strength is accumulated over time. It has already reached a breakthrough point, so it has nothing to do with my pills. Chen Xiaofeng wiped away his tears in embarrassment and stood up, turning to look at his 3 good brothers. The 3 looked at each other for a while, then they hugged each other tightly. Their trembling bodies illustrated their excitement and their longing for the future. The deadline for the mission was approaching. They took advantage of this last period of time to kill 2 more magical beasts and a snow Ganoderma grass. Then they were ready to leave with satisfaction. Chapter 1246. True Elite Help. Help. A dash. Don't eat me, don't help me, stop it. Suddenly, shrill screams and cries for help came from a distance. Zhang Chong and the others looked at each other with surprise on their faces. Chen Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, you guys wait here, I'll go and check it. Chen Xiaofeng's agility was originally the highest among everyone except Shiyu. Now that he had advanced to the gold core stage, he was even more faster. As soon as he said it, his figure disappeared like a gust of wind. Even his shadow couldn't be seen. After a short while, Chen Xiaofeng returned again. The screams also got closer and closer and sounded more and more frantic. Chen Xiaofeng looked calm. He brushed off his clothes that had been ruffled by the wind, and he smiled slightly. It's a group of students from the Xian medical branch who are being chased by the peak of rank 5 magical beast dark pattern python. If Zhang Chong and others heard that, they would definitely be frightened and run away. However, now it was the exact opposite. The remaining 8 people were not moved when they heard the name of the dark patterned python. Instead, Zhang Yi asked innocently, are we going to save them? Chen Xiaofeng smiled, rubbed his chin and said, I see that they have excellent magic weapons and powerful spell. 4 of them are even at the gold core stage. I believe they must be the elites of Xian medical branch. The students in the 4 upper courtyards have always looked down on us who come from the 4 lower courtyards. If we save them, their expression must be very funny. I like watching those elites being ashamed. Qian Dazhuang waved his hammer and said excitedly, let's go and save these weaklings. Show them who are the real elites. While speaking, the students from the Xian medical branch had already come to them. The dark pattern python also arrived. The size of this giant python was indeed huge and frightening. It had a body as thick as a basin, and a huge head that spitting a red tongue. Every time it swept, there would be an earth-shattering noise. The trees all fell to the ground. Almost all the people in Xian medical branch were desperate. When they saw the figures of Hushi and others, they naturally rushed over to ask for help. But when they got closer, they found that all of them were wearing Huang medical branch's costume. And they suddenly changed from surprise to despair. A group of trash from the Huang medical branch. Even if they were all fed to the pythons, it wouldn't buy much time for them to escape. In the end, they still had to die. Just when the people in Xian medical branch thought that Xiyu and the others would follow them to run wild, a scene that stunned them happened. The trash from the Huang medical branch jumped over them one by one. 8 people stood around the dark-patterned python and stopped its way. A fiery fireball was launched on the eyelid of the dark-patterned python. Although it failed to hurt it, it still triggered it. In the blink of an eye, the python shifted its target from the students of the Xian medical branch to them. Several students in Xian medical branch looked at each other, confused by the scene in front of them. They even forgot to run for their lives in time. Are they crazy? They dare to attack the dark-patterned python? Don't they know that this is the peak of rank 5 magic beast? Are the people of the Huang medical branch stupid? Or have they not been encountered a rank 5 magical beast before? Chapter 1247. Easy. Do they really think that with just 3 gold core stage and 5 meridian stage can deal with a rank 5 magical beast? The students at Xian medical branch thought they were crazy. If not, who would do such a thing? Of course, there were also people who gloated over their misfortune. Since they want to court death, it is not just right. With these dumbass dragging the python, we can just run to the teleportation array. Other students of the Xian medical branch nodded. When they were about to slip away when suddenly, the painful and frantic cry of the dark-patterned python came from behind. The violent crash was accompanied by the breaking of the roots of the towering giant tree, and a violent shake. The students of the Xian medical branch were unable to stand still. They looked back in astonishment. Then they were horrified to discover that the dark-patterned python that made them desperate was now heavily injured. Especially its 2 eyes, which turned into a hollow, were gurgling blood. At 7 inches of it, a flying sword was also nailed on the spot. Zhang Chongzeng, who had just let go of his hand, rose into the air and landed steadily on the side. A lazy voice came from the air. Okay, its 7 inches is being nailed, which means its cultivation has lost by half. It can no longer cast spell. Now all you have to do is to break its defense bit by bit, and grind it to the death. Feng Yuan retracted the arm that had just been injured by the python, frowned and shook it. His friend immediately asked, Yuan, are you alright? I'm fine, Feng Yuan said excitedly. The poison given by Senior Shiyu is really good. It can actually corrode the high defense scales of the rank 5 magical beast. As he said, he looked at Zhang Yi gratefully. Zhang Yi, thank you just now. If it wasn't for your beast-taming skill illusionary mind, which stunned the dark-patterned python for a moment, I couldn't have poisoned it. Zhang Yi had an innocent and happy smile on his face, and his voice was clear and bright. You should thank Brother Shiyu. Before yesterday I couldn't use the skill of illusionary mind. But I actually did it after eating the pills given by Brother Shiyu. Brother Shiyu is really amazing. The students of the Xian medical branch could no longer run away. They watched the dark-patterned python in front of them being ravaged by these 8 people little by little, losing its vitality little by little without resistance. They couldn't believe that this was the python that, however, the fact was right in front of them. Every desperate attack of the dark-patterned python had earth-shaking power. They couldn't block a single hit of it at all. But this group of people did it, and they did it very easily. Aren't they from the Huang medical branch? How the hell did they do it? Exclamations sounded in their mouths. Afterward, someone saw the young man who was leaning against the tree trunk and reading a book not far away. It was a few dozen meters away, and the space was filled with dust and bloody smell, but all these didn't affect the young man's leisure and comfort. Shiyu. The man let out an inexplicable exclamation. Afterward, all eyes of Xian medical branch fell on Shiyu. It's Shiyu. That's right, it must be Shiyu. It's him who gave the trash of the Huang medical branch so much power. Chapter 1248. Envy. I heard that his medical skills are superb, and his medicinal pills are even rarer. I heard that his cultivation is terrifyingly high. Even Feng Yinqing at the gold core stage intermediate stage can't even resist his single blow. I always thought it was just a rumor, but it seems to be true. Just when the students of the Xian medical branch were in shock and awe, there was a loud bang from the front. The peak of the rank 5 magical beast was finally knocked down. Its huge head was cut off. A pink pig ran over immediately. It waved its paw and collected the giant python corpse. Afterward, more than a dozen bottles of medicinal pills were thrown to Qian Dazhuang and others without hesitation. The students of the Xian medical branch widened their eyes. Many people knew that little pink pig. It was Shiyu's spiritual pet, so the medicinal pills were given by Shiyu. Those are the best quality pills of the Shengda Hall. Shiyu just casually gave away a dozen bottles to the trash of the Huang medical branch without even blinking an eye. Then, someone suddenly discovered a fact that shocked them even more. Isn't that Chen Xiaofeng? Isn't he at the Meridian stage? Why is he at the Gold Core stage now? Yeah. I have met Chen Xiaofeng a few days ago. He is indeed at the Meridian stage. Could it be that he advanced in just a few days? How is this possible? Is it so easy to advance to the Gold Core stage from the Meridian stage? They moved their shocked eyes from Chen Xiaofeng to the medicinal pills that were instantly divided up. They saw Qian Dazhuang and the others holding the medicinal pills with joy. Chang Dazhuang patted Hong En's shoulder and said, "Little An, I give you mine as well. You should eat more. Maybe you can advance like Xiaofeng in 2 days." How could the students of the Xian medical branch not understand now? Chen Xiaofeng was able to advance. This group of 8 trashes could fight against the mighty rank 5 magic beast because of one person, Shiyu. The leader of the group had a burst of excitement on his face. He walked quickly to Shiyu and bowed. "Thank you for your life-saving grace." Flap. Hushi turned over a page of the book and read the box. She didn't even bother looking at him. There was an embarrassed look on the leader's face, but there was no resentment. In fact, the scene that just happened gave him too much shock. At this time he only feared and envied Shiyu. How could he feel resentment? Jin Ziyu, who was sitting beside Hushi, smiled slightly and said, "Why are you being chased by the dark pattern python?" The leader was new to the academy a few years ago and didn't know Jin Ziyu. Since he was sitting beside Shiyu, he didn't dare to neglect him and hurriedly said, "We found a rank 5 snow Ganoderma grass and were about to pick it. Then the dark pattern python suddenly came out." Jin Ziyu nodded and said, "Do you remember the location of the snow Ganoderma grass?" Behind the leader, several students of the Xian medical branch showed resentment. The dark pattern python had been removed, and they were going to secretly pick the snow Ganoderma grass later. That was a rank 5 spiritual plant. It was so rare that it was almost impossible to find anywhere else in Miluo continent except the Sun Moon Mountain range. If they could take one out, they would gain a huge fortune. But the leader was clear that without Shiyu's help, they would have died in the belly of the python long ago. Chapter 1249. Malicious speculation. Besides, they didn't kill the python themselves, so the snow Ganoderma grass wasn't something they should be greedy for. After thinking for a moment, he said solemnly, "I remember." Then he said the location of the snow Ganoderma grass. The teammates behind him desperately pulled his clothes, hoping that he would say the wrong location, but the leader did not hesitate. Hushi, who was reading ancient books, suddenly closed the book and stood up. Her cold and clear gaze fell on the leader. The leader swallowed, feeling nervous for no reason. He was even more nervous than facing the elder. Hushi suddenly reached out and threw a porcelain bottle, and she said casually, "Your dual spiritual roots are conflicting with each other, causing impurities to stack in your spiritual roots, so your cultivation has been stuck in the intermediate stage of the Gold Core stage. This is a grade 4 bone muscle enhancement pill that can help you break through the bottleneck. Just treat it as your compensation for giving me the snow Ganoderma grass." After she finished speaking, she waved at the others and flew toward the direction of the snow Ganoderma grass without stopping. The leader stood there in a daze, holding the porcelain bottle in his hand. He couldn't say a single word for a while. The student of Xian medical branch next to him swallowed his saliva and muttered after a while, I'm not dreaming, right? This is the best quality bone muscle enhancement pill. A whole bottle of the best quality bone muscle enhancement pill." The leader suddenly came back to his senses, suppressed the excitement in his heart and said to his teammates, Our mission deadline is approaching, let's go to the teleportation array first. This bottle of medicinal pills is our common reward. When we leave this place, I will share it equally with everyone. The students of Xian Medical Branch looked eager and excited. They walked toward the teleportation array. They thought they would be dead in the mouth of the python, but who knew that they not only did not die, but they also completed the mission, and even got a bottle of the best quality bone muscle enhancement pill. It was really a blessing after escaping from the disaster. The 5 days soon came to an end. The hall of the Immortal Mission Hall was unexpectedly crowded with people on this day. Everyone's eyes fell on the heaven-level mission, the hourglass to find snow Ganoderma grass. The deadline was getting closer and closer. It was less than an hour away, but no one came to submit the mission at all, and there was no response from the teleportation array. The onlookers all showed their gloating expressions. The students who were trembling in fear because of Shiyu 5 days ago also began to whisper loudly. As I said earlier, it's impossible for their team to complete the heaven-level mission. They haven't even gotten out until now. I'm afraid they have already died in the Sun-Moon Mountain range. In terms of strength, Shiyu is really a genius, but he is too arrogant. He asked for such a result himself. Is there a need to pity him? As long as he has a little brain, he will not refuse Dean Li's invitation to stay in Heaven Medical Branch, instead of going to the Trash Huang Medical Branch. In this hall, there were also students from the Huang Medical Branch. Everyone's unbridled ridicule and malicious speculation made them all look pale. They huddled in the corner, not daring to move. Tu Yonghao was also in the crowd. His cold and vicious eyes looked at the hourglass not far away. He smiled grimly. Jin Ziyu and the others of course can't come out alive. Wu Jinshui and the others have probably fed their corpses to the magical beasts. A Meridian Stage Peak stage student next to Tu Yonghao heard the words and smiled flatteringly. Brother Tu, your tactic is always excellent. This time, you can get rid of the trash Jin Ziyu and the scourge Shiyu through other people's hands. You are really clever. Chapter 1250. What was going on? A smug and cheerful expression appeared on Tu Yonghao's face. Just as he was about to speak, a shocked voice came from a student beside him. Someone is coming in. The strong smell of blood and the unique smell of grass and trees in the Sun-Moon Mountain range. They must have come to finish the mission. The cultivation methods that the student practiced made him extremely sensitive to smell, so no one doubted his words. Before the person entered the enchantment, Tu Yonghao had a gloomy face. How is it possible? Did they really get away with it? The other students in the Immortal Mission Hall also showed nervous expressions, looking at the door eagerly. Soon several figures walked into the hall. When everyone saw their appearance, they suddenly laughed. It turned out to be the group of Xian Medical Branch people who took the heaven-level mission. It's not Shiyu at all. It was the Xian Medical Branch students who had just parted with Hushi in the Sun-Moon Mountain range. At this time, each of them was tattered and scarred. The strong smell of blood and the tired look on their faces could not be concealed. However, their eyes were full of excited smiles. I heard that the heaven-level mission is also very dangerous. It is very likely that you will encounter rank 5 magical beasts. When these people took the mission, many elders were not optimistic to them. I didn't expect them to actually succeed. That's thanks to the fact that their team has 4 gold core stages, and the leader is even at the gold core stage later stage. Unlike Shiyu's team, they only have 2 gold core stage martial artists, and they dare to take heaven-level mission? Right, even these Xian Medical Branch students are scarred. How can Shiyu and the others survive? Students from Xian Medical Branch walked to the submission counter. The leader was about to hand over the things, and there was an exclamation from behind. Shiyu. Jin Ziyu. They actually came back? Students of the Xian Medical Branch turned around and saw Shiyu and her party members. Different from the people from Xian Medical Branch, Shiyu and the others were clean and tidy. Their hair was not messy, and even their spiritual power was stable. They didn't look like they had gone through difficult battles at all. The students in the Immortal Mission Hall were stunned with their eyes almost popping out. How is this possible? Shiyu and the others actually all survived the heaven-level mission? Not a single one is injured. That's a heaven-level mission. I got. They must have found a place to hide after they entered the Sun Moon Mountain range. Then they will say that they couldn't find snow Ganoderma grass. Isn't that a good excuse? That's right. Just relying on the strength of these trashes, how can they all come back unscathed? The shock on the faces of the onlookers turned into contempt. Once they accepted Shiyu's cowardly hiding setting, it all became very reasonable. This group of students also believed in their own guesses. They looked at the 10 people with contempt. But then, something unexpected happened. The team leader of the Xian Medical Branch, who was about to submit the mission, actually walked quickly to Shiyu and bowed to her respectfully. Shiyu, you come out so soon? Why don't you submit the mission first? This move immediately made the onlookers who laughed at Shiyu dumbfounded. What is the situation? Why does the Gold Core Stage Master of the Xian Medical Branch bow to Shiyu, the junior of the Foundation Establishment stage? He even used honorifics. Chapter 1251. Mission submission. The captain even let him submit the mission first? Submit what? Did Shiyu really get the snow Ganoderma grass? How can that be? Hushi thought slightly. Before she could speak, Qian Dazhuang's loud voice sounded. Come on, don't waste the time. I think your teammates are about to faint. Why are you still babbling here? Go and submit your mission. However, the leader and team members all nodded decisively. One girl looked at Shiyu gratefully and said, Thanks to your help that we were able to escape from death and have the opportunity to complete our mission. Moreover, the medicine given by Shiyu is really good. Our injuries are almost recovered. Please submit your mission first. Since they said this, Hushi didn't argue with them. She went past the leader and stood in front of the submission counter. She tapped the table and flicked her sleeve, and a crystal-clear grade 5 snow Ganoderma grass appeared in front of Officer Jiang. Officer Jiang felt the strong fragrance from the snow Ganoderma grass, and the refreshing spiritual power lingering in the immortal mission hall. He immediately widened his eyes. The rank 5 spiritual plant was not shockingly rare, but this snow Ganoderma grass was different. Because snow Ganoderma grass was almost only found in Sun Moon Mountain range. Every snow Ganoderma grass, there would be a peak of the rank 5 or a rank 6 magical beast guarding beside. However, there was one more thing that many people didn't know. Those guardian magical beasts had the typical characteristics of becoming stronger when facing stronger enemies. If the people near the snow Ganoderma grass were only below the gold core stage, then there would only be 2 to 3 magical beasts attacking the martial artists. But if the cultivation of the people near the snow Ganoderma grass reached the nascent soul stage, then his trouble would be big. The guardian magical beast would make a strange roar to summon hundreds of rank 6 magic beasts. Facing such an army of rank 6 magical beasts, even the nascent soul martial artist had to fall. Therefore, in Immortal Mission Hall, the mission of finding snow Ganoderma grass was marked as heaven level, and it was the top 3 of the heaven level missions. The number of people who had completed this mission since the founding of Miracle Healer Academy could be counted on a single finger. But those who died in this mission were immeasurable numbers. Therefore, when Officer Jiang saw Hushi took out the snow Ganoderma grass, he was so shocked that he couldn't even say a complete sentence. Snow Ganoderma grass, it really is snow Ganoderma grass. How did you get it? Hushi raised her eyebrows and didn't answer Officer Jiang's words, but she smiled slightly. Paying 1 snow Ganoderma grass means completing this heaven-level mission once, right? Yes. How many points are rewarded for a heaven-level mission? The team will get a total of 2,000 points. Can this heaven-level mission be accepted without restrictions? Why, yes. The elders need a lot of snow Ganoderma grass when refining pills. The more the better. Officer Jiang seemed to be possessed. He answered Hushi's question honestly. After hearing the last sentence, Hushi reached out and tapped the table lightly. Got it. Give me the mission points then. Moments later, a total of 2,000 points were recorded in the inscribed jade slip in Hushi's hand. As for the distribution of points, she could do it later. Chapter 1252. Greedy Officer Jiang cautiously put the snow Ganoderma grass into the special jade container. When he was about to put the jade box into the storage bag, he heard the young man on the opposite side smile leisurely, and said with a clear and pleasant voice, "I think should put away this jade box later." As soon as the voice sounded, the snow-white wrist turned again, and a light flashed. The next moment, there was an uproar in the Immortal Mission Hall. Everyone's eyes seemed to be burning like a flame as they stared at Shiyu's hand. In her hand, there were 3 snow Ganoderma grass. Including the one just now, there are 4. Snow Ganoderma grass? My God, that is not a grade 1 spiritual plant nor a weed on the roadside, but a snow Ganoderma grass that worths hundreds of millions of crystal stones. In the past, how many people fought desperately for this snow Ganoderma grass, but they even lost their lives for it. But Shiyu actually took out 4. How can that be? Officer Jiang was trembling all over. His eyes fixed on the 3 crystal-clear spiritual grasses on the table, for fear that they would disappear if he blinked. "Hush," he said indifferently. "Is there a time interval limit to accept the heaven-level missions? If so, then I can take the mission and submit it after 2 days." No. Officer Jiang grabbed the 3 snow Ganoderma grasses and put them into the jade box like a rare treasure. If the missions could be completed, they would be able to get great benefits. The rewards for the heaven-level missions were even more insanely generous. This time, Shiyu brought 4 snow Ganoderma grasses at once, which meant that he completed 4 heaven-level missions in 1 day. How could he not be ecstatic with such a performance? Officer Jiang even saved Shiyu the procedure of taking the mission and processed it against the regulations. He recorded the remaining 6,000 points into her inscribed jade slip, as if he was afraid that Shiyu would take the snow Ganoderma grass back. Under everyone's lost gaze, Hushi and the others left the Immortal Mission Hall. At this moment, the shocked Tu Yonghao saw Jin Ziyu's uninjured appearance, and he roared hysterically, "Impossible! With these trashes, how could they fight against the rank 5 and rank 6 magical beasts? They must have found the snow Ganoderma grass without the protection of magical beasts, and they not only have 4. They just don't want to submit them. Don't let them run away." As soon as these words were said, everyone suddenly came back to their senses, looking at Shiyu and others' eyes with greedy eyes. Seeing everyone's reaction, Tu Yonghao immediately believed his own guess and rushed toward Jin Ziyu fiercely and greedily. "Jin Ziyu, you sinister and despicable villain. Just like before, you like to take all the benefits yourself. If you obediently hand out the snow Ganoderma grass today, I will forgive you. Otherwise, I'll make you kneel down and beg." Before saying the last word, a hand suddenly stretched out from the side and grabbed Tu Yonghao's collar. With a loud bang, Tu Yonghao was slammed to the ground. He groaned in pain as if his internal organs were injured. The Heaven and Earth Medical Branch students who were about to support Tu Yonghao were stopped after making a few steps. Their vital points, such as their hearts and necks, were placed with flying swords. If they moved rashly, they would be killed immediately. Chapter 1253. The improvement of strength. Some were directly stepped on the ground, unable to move. Qian Dazhuang raised his big foot even higher, and stomped hard on Tu Yonghao's chest. This stomp made his ribs crack. Tears had instantly filled his face. Qian Dazhuang looked down at Tu Yonghao on the ground with big eyes and said with disdain, "Do you think we are cowards like you who will get scared away by the rank 5 magical beasts? We didn't win against the peak of the rank 5 magical beasts? Pui. You guys are really ignorant." This change made all the students and officers present look at each other with shock. In particular, those who witnessed Jin Ziyu being beaten and bullied by Tu Yonghao, and the others 5 days ago couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. Just 5 days, 5 days. The useless trash who got trampled on actually had such a powerful strength. Especially when someone found out that Chen Xiaofeng had reached the gold core stage. Moreover, he also stepped on the students of Earth Medical Branch, who were also gold core stage, making them unable to resist. It made everyone feel astonished to the extreme. No one could be killed in the Immortal Mission Hall. Although Qian Dazhuang and the others hated Tu Yonghao to the extreme, they still let him go in the end. Jin Ziyu coldly looked at the few people who were dying like dead dogs. The sourness, pain, hatred and joy in his heart were surging, but in the end he only said 2 words, "Get lost." This time, the 10 people left Immortal Mission Hall directly. It wasn't until the 10 people's aura completely disappeared that the people in the Immortal Mission Hall suddenly woke up. Everyone was amazed at the speed at which these trashes of the Huang medical branch were progressing. It was really terrifying. Afterward, everyone asked a question. Who the hell made their strength have such a terrifying boost? The students of the Xian medical branch who had finished their mission were about to leave when they heard everyone's discussion. They couldn't help but smile. When almost all of them left the Immortal Mission Hall, the last person turned around and sneered. Can't you figure out such a simple truth? Before this, is there anyone in the Huang medical branch who has improved in cultivation? Has anyone advanced from the Meridian stage to the Gold Core stage? Not only that, it isn't just Chen Xiaofeng who has advanced. Even Hong'an, Feng Yuan and the others have reached the Meridian stage peak stage. Hehe, can't you think these changes happen after someone appears? Such questions were not difficult to answer. All answers only point to one name, Shiyu. The students of the Xian medical branch looked at the students of the Heaven medical branch with contempt and pity. He laughed. Drive Shiyu to Huang medical branch is really the stupidest thing you Heaven medical branch has done. Now the people of the Huang medical branch are protected by Shiyu. They will have a steady stream of best quality pills to improve their strength. I really envy the people of the Huang medical branch. What do you guys of the Heaven medical branch think? Haha, there may be a second or third Chen Xiaofeng. By then, it will be too late for you guys to cry. For a moment, the whole place was silent. The faces of the Heaven medical branch looked ashen. Their eyes were filled with resentment and jealousy. Chapter 1254. This figure the group of people in Huang medical branch who were originally timid and cowardly all looked at each other with excited and hopeful smiles on their faces. For the first time they felt that maybe they were not that weak. Maybe they still had room to progress. Maybe they could really compete with the students in the 4 upper courtyards. Just like Chen Xiaofeng and Feng Yin. As long as that young man exists and belonged to their Huang medical branch. The Miracle Healer Academy, that followed the law of jungle and had strict system, was destined to face a turbulent storm because of the arrival of one person. At this moment, everyone in the Immortal Mission Hall was shocked by the strength improvement that Hushi brought to others. However, Hushi was not happy at all. She didn't understand why the best quality pills were so effective for Chen Xiaofeng and the others, but it was useless to her. Since the last time she fought against the rank 7 magical beast, and devoured the magical beast's essence pill, she felt like she had stepped 1 foot into the Gold Core stage. It was only 1 step away, but in the following period, no matter how hard she tried and how high-quality medicinal pills she took, she could never get past this step. This feeling was like a football being kicked in front of the goal, but the last kick just couldn't be executed. How could one not be annoying? Hushi was in a bad mood, so even though the other 9 members of the team only took away 3,000 points and shared among them, the other 5,000 points were given to her, she still wasn't that happy. In the void, little golden dragon comforted. Boss, condensing the Gold Core stage is something that can't be rushed. Besides, boss, isn't your current strength more than enough to deal with the ordinary Gold Core stage? Don't worry. There is always a way to break through. Xiaoli also said in a soft voice. Yeah, miss, if ordinary people want to advance to the Gold Core stage, they may not be able to reach the Gold Core stage in 100 years, but you have gone from Qi refining to the peak of the Meridian stage in just 1 year. This is already great. Only Little Egg immediately retorted. Mother is the most powerful. How can you compare her with ordinary people? Mother, don't worry, Little Egg will help you find a way to let you advance to the Gold Core stage quickly. Several little guys were arguing and talking in the void. Hushi rubbed her temples with a headache. Then she pushed the door and entered her dormitory. As soon as Hushi stepped into the dormitory, she was stunned in place. It turned out that she was so absorbed in thinking that she didn't realize that the light in the room was on. And Xianmu was sitting on his own bed meditating. Hushi blinked and glanced at Xianmu. The man's hair was meticulously combed, but there was fine sweat on his forehead. His upper body was now naked, revealing bronze smooth skin, burly strong figure and perfect 8-pack abs. The fine sweat adhered to the surface of his skin, making it even more symmetrical, hot and elastic. A few drops of sweat still slipped down his chest, flowed through the undulating texture, and disappeared into his thin waist. Hushi raised her eyebrows and couldn't help but whistled to him in her heart. This figure really matches that of Nan Gongyu. However, this Xianmu and Nan Gongyu were two completely different types. Nan Gongyu had a handsome face that turned all living beings upside down. His body was not this kind of muscular men's style, but his slender body was covered under the smooth muscles, giving people an ethereal and charming beauty. Chapter 1255. Harem. Nan Gongyu's skin is much fairer and smoother than Xianmu's, but it doesn't feel weak at all. On the contrary, it makes me feel excited. I can't wait to touch it with my own hands. Hushi snapped back to her senses, and her cold little face flushed red all of a sudden. What was I thinking just now? I suddenly thought of Nan Gongyu's bathing appearance, evil smile, and the appearance of water droplets falling from his chest. As I thought about it, I felt my heart pounding. Even my blood seemed to be boiling. That man, he has been separated from me for so long, and there is no news at all. I wonder how is he doing now? The little egg in the void was still arguing with little golden dragon and the others, but he suddenly noticed something strange outside. When he saw Hushi's face flushed looking at a half-naked man, he was immediately anxious. Why is Mom blushing looking at another man's naked body? Could it be that Mom has fallen in love with this iceberg man? Little egg in the void glared fiercely at the half-naked man not far away, clenched his small fists and cursed angrily. You shameless freak. Why are you taking off your clothes in the room? What muscles are you showing off? You dare to seduce Mom with your ass body? You can't even match Daddy's finger. This scolding attracted little golden dragon and Xiaoli too. Xiaoli was a girl. After looking outside, she blushed and ran into Lingxiao Palace with her eyes covered. Little dumb cow was stupid and didn't understand what they were saying. Only little golden dragon laughed and said, "Why is his figure ass? I think this Xianmu has a good figure, and it is not worse than Nan Gongyu. Besides, his strength is also good. I can't see who is better between him and Nan Gongyu. Boss can just take them both. No, she can take more and open a harem, ha ha ha." After getting along with Little Egg day and night, Little Golden Dragon heard a lot of new terms from Little Egg's previous life, causing him to speak more and more shameless now. No, no, no. Little Egg excitedly waved his little claws. He was so hurried that he didn't disguise. 2 tentacles popped out from his pinky head and shook nonstop. Mom, Daddy is the best. Mom shouldn't choose this shameless man. It's not good to love the new and loathe the old. Of course, Hushi heard the noise of the little guys in the void, but she wasn't super annoyed. Little Golden Dragon even knows about Harem now. And Little Egg, whose spiritual pet is he? He is more like Nan Gongyu's spy. He dares to say that I love the new and loathe the old? I will teach him a lesson later. As Hushi was thinking, Xianmu, who was meditating with his eyes closed, opened his eyes. 2 pairs of cold eyes met directly as if invisible sparks were intertwined in the air, making the temperature of the dormitory drop a bit. Hushi raised her eyebrows and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Her expression looked leisurely and content. She was not ashamed of being caught. Xianmu's face still had that cold and indifferent expression, but a dim light flashed in his eyes. Hushi came in just now and stared at him. Of course Xianmu sensed it. He originally planned to ignore it, but the young man swept over him with a strangely warm gaze, which made Xianmu feel a strange feeling in his heart. So he opened his eyes and wanted to teach Xiyu a lesson for her rudeness. Chapter 1256. You can also have it. However, the moment he opened his eyes, a handsome face was reflected in his eyes. Xianmu's heart skipped a beat. For the first time, he realized that his young man had such an outstanding face. He looked so good that even Xianmu, who had always been cold-hearted, was moved when he saw the handsome face accidentally. However, such throbbing was only for a moment. It was quickly suppressed by Xianmu. He looked straight at Xiyu and said, "Have you seen enough?" Hushi smiled slightly, raised her lips and said sorry. The young man's voice was clear and sweet, But the apology he said sounded unapologetic. Instead, it had a sense of ridicule. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for Xianmu to answer, she had jumped onto her bed. Xianmu squinted slightly, and he suddenly said in a calm voice, "There are some prescriptions that can improve body figure. If you are envious, I can give you a portion. You can also have it." Hushi, who had just landed on the upper bunk bed, stumbled under her feet and almost fell off the bed. Envious of what? What is it that I can have too? Have what, 8 perfect abdominal muscles? Hushi imagined her muscular appearance, and she instantly felt disgusting. She hurriedly shook her head to shake away the terrible image. Gosh, I don't want to be a King Kong Barbie even if I die. On the bed diagonally opposite, a faint smile flashed in Xianmu's eyes, and he lay down on the bed in his clothes. On the second day, the news that Xiyu led Huang Medical Branch students to complete the Heaven-level mission swept the entire Miracle Healer Academy like a hurricane. At first, the reaction of many people when they heard this was complete disbelief. But as more and more information was confirmed, all that was left in everyone's heart was envy, jealousy, and unwillingness. Of course, this time, the most affected were definitely Heaven Medical Branch and Huang Medical Branch. For the first time, the students of Heaven Medical Branch felt ridiculed and downed. Walking in the academy, people laughed at them for kicking the real genius out of Heaven Medical Branch. Now Huang Medical Branch got the benefits. The students of Huang Medical Branch felt a little proud. Although not everyone could cheer up, some students who were self-motivated had the spirit of trying hard. As for Qian Dazhuang and others who participated in the Heaven-level mission with Xiyu, they became famous in the entire Huang Medical Branch. Many people invited them to form a team to accept the missions. Although it was impossible to do Heaven-level missions, Xian-level and Huang-level missions were a piece of cake for Qian Dazhuang, Chen Xiaofeng and Zhang Chong. Moreover, because of Shiyu's coercion and the 4 snow Ganoderma grasses that were handed in, the officers of Immortal Mission Hall no longer dared to embarrass the students of Huang Medical Branch. As the missions were completed and points had accumulated, the students of Huang Medical Branch finally had the resources and capital to study, and their strength was also steadily improving. Of course, these were all later stories. At this time, Hushi was coming out of the library on the 3rd floor. While returning to the dormitory, she was digesting the new knowledge she had just learned. However, there was something else that worried her very much. There were almost no martial artists with spiritual root in Miluo continent, and there were not many cultivation methods about it. She always knew that. However, Hushi did not expect that in the Miracle Healer Academy, which claimed to include all the books in the world, there were no introduction and cultivation methods related to the wood spiritual root. Chapter 1257. Bijing Pavilion. And after entering the pseudo-gold core stage, Hushi found out something. The basic attributes of martial artists could be converted from each other. That was, water-based martial artists could cast fireballs, but to cast spells that were not their own attributes, the spiritual power and fundamental essence cost 10 times higher. However, there were only 4 types of attributes that could be transformed into each other, which were gold, water, fire and earth. Only the wood-type attribute couldn't be transformed with the spiritual power of other attributes. This also made her wood spiritual root completely unable to cultivate. It was now much behind the other 4 spiritual roots. But why exactly? Why are there so few wood spiritual root martial artists in Miluo continent? There are also so few wood cultivation methods. Moreover, Gu Lufeng once said that the people of the Doctors' Association were aggressively recruiting wood spiritual root people. Once those people were discovered, they never came back. Hushi's eyes were gloomy. She always felt that there was a big conspiracy in this matter. Just as she was in a trance, a young man suddenly hurried toward her. This young man's name was Zhu Hai, one of Fang Yun's friends. He once did heaven-level missions with her. Zhu Hai ran to Hushi's side panting. "Xiyu, I finally found you. Outside the Huang Medical Branch, someone is looking for you. He seems to be in a hurry." "Looking for me?" Hushi asked in surprise. "Do you know who it is?" "The one who was admitted to the Miracle Healer Academy at the same time as you." Zhu Hai gestured. It seems to be Wei, and he looks good. I saw him outside your dormitory. Wei Qingyuan? Hushi was startled, and she immediately thought of the mysterious Bijing Pavilion. It seems that the time has come. She smirked slightly and said solemnly, "Thank you, take me to him." Flying in the academy was restricted, so Hushi could only walk with Zhu Hai. However, after Zhu Hai told her Wei Qingyuan's location, Hushi stepped her feet and disappeared. Zhu Hai, who was left behind, looked at her and sighed. As expected of Shiyu, even if he doesn't need spiritual power, he can still have such a speed. Outside the main courtyard of the Huang Medical Branch, Wei Qingyuan was walking around anxiously, looking into the distance from time to time. Suddenly, he felt a gust of wind blowing in front of him, and he channeled spiritual power to defend. However, his hand was clasped by 5 cold and slender fingers. A youthful voice came into his ears. "It's me." Wei Qingyuan breathed a sigh of relief when he heard the sound. Then he clasped her wrist. "Shiyu, come with me. I'll take you to a place." After about a few minutes, they came to an enchantment. Hushi smirked. "Wei Qingyuan is really bringing me to the Bijing Pavilion. Shiyu, you have to remember that after you go inside, don't do and talk anything. Don't take out any threatening weapons." Wei Qingyuan didn't have the slightest joking smile on his face. He said with a serious face, "We must not offend the people here. If we take a wrong step, we may even lose our lives. Of course, if you cure the person inside, then you will have a talisman to avoid death in Miracle Healer Academy, and even the entire Miluo continent. Shiyu, do you understand?" Hushi smiled slightly. She said with a teasing tone, "I'm scared when you say that. I don't know if I should treat or not." Chapter 1258. Doctor. As soon as he said that, a figure flashed in the enchantment. The expert guard Uncle Chiu, whom she met in the side courtyard, appeared in front of them. Uncle Chiu glared at Hushi coldly and said solemnly, "You better listen to what Wei Qingyuan said and keep it in your heart, otherwise, the consequences will never be bearable for you." When Uncle Chiu spoke, he released the oppression of spiritual power, but Hushi seemed to be unaware. She still had a mocking smile on her face, but when she spoke, her eyes were very serious. "I'm a doctor. The only thing a doctor needs to treat with caution and sincerity is the patient's illness and life. If I lose my common heart due to some nonsense external factors, how can I save people? Then you might as well invite someone else." For a time, both Uncle Chiu and Wei Qingyuan were a little stunned. The scene was extremely quiet. Suddenly, a low, hoarse voice came from the enchantment. "What an interesting little guy, old Chiu, please invite her in. Maybe she can really save Master." Uncle Chiu snapped back to his senses and coughed softly. "Take out your inscribed jade slip." This time, his voice was still cold, but there was a hint of respect and equality in his eyes. Hushi handed over her inscribed jade slip. After Uncle Chiu injected the imprint into it, he handed it back to her. This time, Hushi followed Wei Qingyuan through the enchantment unobstructed. Just as she entered the barrier, Shaoli in the void exclaimed. Hushi frowned slightly. Shaoli's trembling voice sounded. "Miss, I feel the aura left by my brother. Although it is very light, I'm sure that my brother must have been here." A gloomy cold light flashed in Hushi's eyes, then it was hidden under the calmness. In the void, Purple Abyss Vine obeyed her command and wrote her instructions on the ground. "Little Egg, remember every grass, tree and terrain here." Little Egg nodded immediately and said, "Don't worry, Mother, the detailed map here has been engraved in Little Egg's mind." Hushi was very confident in void. She knew that no one here could see through the void and the existence of the little ones in her body. However, if she used divine sense to talk to them, the divine sense fluctuations could be sensed easily. Therefore, she could only pass the message through Purple Abyss Vine. The further she went, the more frightened she became. No wonder on Lu Jishi's map, this Bijing Pavilion was just a vague yard, not as detailed as other places. Because inside this enchantment, there was no such thing as a small yard. The rockery and flowing water that passed by along the way, the hallway and the veranda, were simply bigger than the palace that she visited in her previous life. And each entrance had guards, and each of these guards had a terrifying cultivation of gold core stage later stage. If it wasn't for Uncle Chiu to lead the way, she wouldn't be able to go anywhere after passing through the enchantment. In the end, Uncle Chiu stopped in front of a palace, which looked simple and unadorned from the outside, but Hushi found that the black stone slabs under her feet were actually priceless black jade. When she looked up at the beams, they were made of ligong wood that was rare in the Miluo continent. What kind of tycoon is the owner of this Bijing pavilion? Just as she was amazed, a man's almost insane roar in pain came from the palace. Chapter 1259. Patient. As soon as the roar sounded, Uncle Chiu was shocked. He rushed in with a flicker. Hushi was still stunned, but Wei Qingyuan hurriedly pulled her up and followed in. As soon as Hushi entered the door, she smelled a strong medicinal smell. Not the fresh scent of medicinal pills, but the smell similar to the traditional Chinese medicine she was dealing with, but there was a more disgusting musty smell. Immediately afterward, a heart-wrenching roar came. Hushi followed the sound and saw a man tied to a chair with immortal ropes. From the outside, this man looked about 40 years old. He was wearing a cloud-patterned dark purple brocade shirt. The faint spiritual power fluctuations on it could tell that it was a valuable defensive magic weapon. Although the appearance of this middle-aged man was average, and his face looked even more ugly when roaring in pain, the mighty aura emanated from him didn't make him look ugly at all. This middle-aged man was obviously a person who had a high status. However, no matter how high his status was, as long as he was entangled with illness, even those who became immortals would live a torturing life. At this time, the middle-aged man was surrounded by 8 people. Each of them had many wounds. But what shocked Hushi was that each of these 8 people had the strength of the nascent soul stage. Some of them might have even reached the peak of the nascent soul stage. 8 experts of the nascent soul stage were injured to subdue a person who was bound by the immortal rope. It was enough to imagine how profound the middle-aged man's strength was. In fact, Hushi really couldn't see through the middle-aged man's strength, not even the depth of his strength. She only faced such a situation when she was facing her cheap master, Immortal Xianqing. Even Nangongyu and Xianmu, although she couldn't see through their real cultivation, she could also vaguely feel their strength level. It seems this should his honor that Uncle Chiu and Wei Qingyuan mention. Is there a person with such a terrifying strength on Miluo continent? Is he really from this continent? Could he be from Siam continent like Master? Hushi had countless thoughts in her mind. While on the other side, the 8 nascent soul stage martial artists were about to lose control of his honor. The immortal rope became tighter and tighter, and the light of spiritual power became more and more intense. But there was a terrifying click sound. Uncle Chiu, who had just entered the door, was shocked. He rushed forward to help and said anxiously, "What's going on? Shouldn't there be an hour left? Why did it trigger earlier?" As he spoke, he used his spiritual power to stop the middle-aged man from moving. With the help of Uncle Chiu, the middle-aged man's frantically struggling body finally calmed down. There was a flash of clarity in his eyes. However, just when Uncle Chiu and the others settled down, the middle-aged man suddenly let out a beast-like roar. Pack! One section of the immortal rope was broken away. The remaining rope was also about to shake as if it would break at any time. Hushi squinted. She stretched out 5 fingers with 3 silver needles between her fingers. She was about to shoot them at his honor. Wei Qingyuan, who was standing behind Hushi, just happened to look at her. Seeing her actions, he was about to have a heart attack. He opened his mouth and was about to shout, "Shiyu, stop." Chapter 1260. Half-foot-long needle. However, the guards in this palace were faster than him. A man at the peak of the gold core stage suddenly stopped in front of Hushi, clasped her wrist and said angrily, "What do you want to do? Is this kid tired of living? He wants to take advantage of the chaos to attack his honor." Hushi didn't even look at him. She just stared coldly at the chaos ahead and said solemnly, "Uncle Chiu, you let me in, isn't it because you believe in my medical skills? If you don't want to die and if you don't want this patient to die, get out of the way now." Uncle Chiu suddenly woke up and looked in the direction of Shiyu. Several other martial artists of nascent soul stage also looked at Shiyu with a burning and complicated gaze. Some people questioned, some were amazed, some were anxious, and some looked cold. Pack. Another section of the immortal rope broke, and the two who were holding the middle-aged man up close were hit by a domineering and violent spiritual power on their chests. They screamed in pain and got blown back. Uncle Chio's face looked uncertain for a while. He fixed his gaze on the silver needles in Shiyu's hand, and he gritted his teeth and said solemnly, "Lu Gang, get out of the way." Lu Gang was stunned by the words, and he let go of the hand that held Hushi's hand. Hushi took advantage of the opportunity to exert force, shooting the silver needles on her fingertips. 9 silver needles were shot in 3 times, quickly sealing the major acupoints of the middle-aged man. Just as the silver needle penetrated the man's body, the violent struggle immediately became much lighter. But this did not mean that his illness had improved. On the contrary, his face quickly turned red. All the blue veins on his face and neck burst out. His eyeballs were covered with bloodshot protruding. He seemed to have completely lost his sanity, looking unusually terrifying. Uncle Chio looked at his honor's bulging blood vessels that seemed to burst open at any moment. Then he looked at Shiyu fiercely and said anxiously, "What have you done to his honor? Why did his honor become like this?" Hushi didn't answer Uncle Chio's question, but she stood in front of the middle-aged man and said solemnly, "Continue to hold him down, don't let him move a lot. Otherwise, if I put the needle in the wrong position, even God can't help him." Hushi's expression was calm and steady. Her eyes did not fluctuate at all. The action of piercing the middle-aged man with the silver needles in her hand was even more skillful and natural, as if she had done it thousands of times. This kind of adeptness and unquestionable nature made several martial artists of the nascent soul stage subconsciously follow her words. When they reacted, their faces looked unsightly. A group of nascent soul stage masters was shocked by a foundation establishment stage junior. Wasn't this a great shame? Hushi didn't care about them. When facing a patient, she always saw only the patient and the disease. A needle half a foot long appeared in her hand. It was not the usual silver needle she used, but a golden needle that was thicker. When they saw the needle, Uncle Chio and the others showed expressions of horror. When they saw Hushi was thinking of stabbing the golden needle into the middle-aged man's Baihui acupoint, they were terrified. Is this kid crazy? What is he trying to do? If such a long golden needle is inserted into the Baihui point, even the most powerful martial artists will be seriously injured. However, Hushi didn't give them a chance to react at all, or they never thought that Hushi would actually dare to insert the needle like this. Chapter 1261. I am your doctor. Ah! Just as the half-foot-long golden needle was inserted, the man who had lost his mind suddenly opened his eyes and let out a sharp roar. The immortal rope could no longer restrain him and broke completely. The others who were holding the man were also thrown out mercilessly and suffered a lot of internal injuries. But after breaking free from the immortal rope and their restraint, the middle-aged man just stood up with a green face. Then he sat back down again. He fell into a deep coma. His honor. Uncle Chio let out an angry scream and jumped over. However, no matter how he shook the middle-aged man was still breathless and unable to move. Uncle Chio's face turned pale with horror. He looked at Shiyu with remorse and murderous intent. It was you who killed his honor. I will tear you to pieces and avenge his honor. This kid must have been sent by the enemy to assassinate his honor. Cripple him, and we must ask him for the mastermind behind the scenes. Everyone stared at Hushi viciously, eager to rush up and smash her to pieces. But Hushi was very calm. She even made a cold and sarcastic smile. Are you guys enough? If you still don't make way, his honor will really die. Don't tell me that you don't want to save your master at all, so you are delaying my healing. As she said that, she glanced at Uncle Chio with a cold gaze. She said slowly, I remember that I said that since you asked me to treat, don't question my treatment method. Don't forget that you promised me yourself, which is why I came here to treat. Uncle Chio took a deep breath and said in a trembling voice, You mean his honor is not dead? You can save him? Hushi ignored him and quickly walked to the unconscious middle-aged man. He gently held the top of the gold needle inserted in Baihui point, and the mellow water spiritual power condensed into a lustrous white milky substance and slowly penetrated into the middle-aged man's body along the gold needle. Uncle Chiu and the others stared at Hushi's every move without blinking, for fear that she might do something to harm his honor. An old man beside him suddenly exclaimed, This is condensing the water spiritual power into 1,000-year spiritual cream. Someone can actually do this? How thick is his spiritual power? The old man's words attracted the attention of Uncle Chiu and the others. Their gazes at Shiyu finally became more solemn, but they were more alert and worried. As the 1,000-year spiritual cream flowed in, the blue veins of the middle-aged man slowly faded, but there was still no sign of life. Hushi frowned. This middle-aged man's cultivation was too high. With her own strength, his self-defense spiritual power would stop her from probing his brain structure through the golden needle. This was even with the golden needle penetrating into his Baihui point. If she checked his pulse directly, her spiritual power would be backlash until she vomited blood. I'm your doctor. What I'm doing now is to cure your disease. Hushi said in a very calm voice in the ears of the fainted middle-aged man, facing everyone's astonished eyes. If you don't let go of the defensive spiritual power shield in your brain, I can't verify your condition at all. No one can help you except yourself right now. Chapter 1262. Do my best. I believe that people like you definitely don't want to die in such a small illness, do you? As soon as Hushi finished speaking, she suddenly felt that her spiritual power began to spread in his mind. The structure of the middle-aged man's brain and the condition of the lesions are clearly reflected in her divine sense. A smile appeared on Hushi's face. Without hesitation, dozens of silver needles were inserted into the acupoints of the middle-aged man. After a while, the room was silent. Everyone felt terrified when they saw the appearance of His Honor at the moment. His Honor, who had always been majestic and aloof, now looked like a hedgehog with silver needles all over his head. It was really ridiculous, but no one laughed. But what made Uncle Chiu and the others relieved was that His Honor, who had no sign of life at all, slowly began to breathe smoothly after inserting the silver needles. Uncle Chiu breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Hushi nervously and expectantly. Shiyu, has His Honor's disease been cured? Cure? Are you daydreaming? Hushi sneered. Not to mention cure if this happens again. You all just wait to collect his corpse. What did you say? Impudent boy, you dare to talk nonsense. Are you tired of living? Hushi squinted and said, even if he doesn't die, he will become an idiot sooner or later. I'm just telling you the truth. If you don't like to hear it, I can't help it. Seeing that the atmosphere was tense, Wei Qingyuan hurriedly came out and said, Shiyu, is there any basis for you to make such a diagnosis? Seeing Wei Qingyuan's nervous and worried expression, Hushi knew that he was really worried about her, so she sighed and said, you have never seen this kind of disease, so you don't know the real cause. But if you don't believe it, we can try it out. In his current condition, the trigger cycle is only 2 days at most. We can wait 2 days to see if it will trigger again. It's just that I can't guarantee whether he can survive the disease again, or my golden needle will be effective. As soon as Hushi said this, Uncle Chiu and others all looked dismayed. Because the last time the illness of the middle-aged man was triggered, it was 2 days ago. But the doctor who diagnosed him at that time said that there were still more than 10 days before the next trigger, so they were not prepared. Who knew just a few hours ago? His Honor suddenly said that his body was not right. He asked them to find someone to heal him immediately. Originally, they thought it was His Honor's illusion. After all, Dr. Lu Xuyang, who had such powerful medical skills, had never been wrong in guessing the trigger cycle, but they didn't expect it to be true. So Shiyu, the young man in front, really has such superb medical skills? Uncle Chiu took a deep breath and said, if he is treated in these 2 days, can you cure His Honor's illness? Hushi shook her head. I can't guarantee that it will be cured. I can only say that I will do my best. Uncle Chiu frowned anxiously and said, "But when you treated that Zhang Yi before, you clearly said that it would be cured." Hashi squinted and sneered. "You also know that it was before. When Zhang Yi was treated, what was his trigger cycle? What is His Honor's trigger cycle now? If you let me treat 1 month earlier, maybe I can treat with 100% certainty." Chapter 1263. 60%. When Hashi said this, everyone present looked utterly ugly. Uncle Chiu even gritted his teeth with anxiety and guilt in his eyes. Wei Qingyuan walked over to Hashi and whispered in her ear, "I reported that you cured Zhang Yi a month ago, but it was President Lu Xuyang who treated His Honor at that time. President Lu said that Zhang Yi's disease and His Honor's disease only have the same symptoms, but different causes. He claimed that changing the treatment plan at will put His Honor's life in danger. That's why this matter was delayed. Until just now, His Honor suddenly fell ill, but President Lu left early because he diagnosed that the trigger cycle was more than 10 days. So they could only find you for treatment." Lu Xuyang, the president of the Doctors Association, the rank 10 doctor, the father of Lu Zhishi? Hashi frowned slightly. He was right that Lu Xuyang and Zhang Yi have different causes. However, with Lu Xuyang's medical skills, he really can't predict that the trigger cycle is just 2 days? Besides, from what I see of the changes in this middle-aged man's illness, there is something strange about it. It seems that the rate of deterioration of the disease is too fast, as if it is not a natural change but a man-made trigger. Uncle Chiu discussed with some nascent soul stage him for a while, and he finally stepped forward and said, "Shiyu, how sure are you that you can cure His Honor?" 60%. Only 60%? Uncle Chiu's face changed greatly and he grunted. "Shiyu, how dare you? With only 60% confidence you dare to treat His Honor?" Hashi sneered, not at all afraid of the coercion emanating from Uncle Chiu. "If I don't treat, he doesn't even have 10% chance of surviving." Uncle Chiu was trembling with anger. As he was about to curse, a man walked up behind him and said in a deep voice, "Shiyu, can you tell me how you can cure His Honor?" This voice, Hashi knew, was the sound from before entering the enchantment. Hashi smiled and said, "I can tell you my method, but I'm afraid that you guys don't dare to try. So before making the decision, let's wait for His Honor to wake up first." As soon as the words fell, Hashi poured spiritual power into the silver needle on the top of His Honor's head again. Strands of black smoke started to emerge from every silver needle. As the black smoke dissipated, His Honor's complexion gradually changed from dark green to normal. After half an hour, seeing that there was no more black gas flowing out, Hashi carefully removed the silver needles. Until the last half-foot-long golden needle of Baihui Point was taken out, His Honor suddenly breathed out with his chest undulating up and down, and opened his eyes. "His Honor! His Honor! You finally woke up." Everyone rushed over with ecstasy on their faces. Uncle Chiu even had tears in his eyes. Hashi's eyes also met that of the middle-aged man. It was a pair of seemingly ordinary eyes, but when the eyes focused, a strong oppression suddenly burst out. That was not the oppression of spiritual power that was deliberately cast, but the oppression that was born with experience and strength. Those sharp eyes swept over her, and Hashi only felt as if she had been seen through from the inside out. Her heart froze slightly. His Honor also showed a hint of surprise in his eyes, and he said slowly, "You're Shiyu?" Hashi slowly breathed out. She looked back without being humble or arrogant. "Yes." Chapter 1264. Open Cranium. The middle-aged man sat up straight with Uncle Chiu's help. The noble aura that had been in a high position for a long time naturally spread out. Even his messy state couldn't reduce that by a bit. Uncle Chiu had long been used to the pressure of His Honor, but he was surprised that Shiyu, who was at the foundation establishment stage, didn't lose her composure when facing His Honor. "It seems that this little guy does have some ability." The middle-aged man coughed lightly and said lightly, "Can you talk about your treatment now?" Although he had been in a state of unconsciousness and coma just now, he knew very well what was happening around him. Hashi simply said 2 words, "Open Cranium." "Open Cranium?" Uncle Chio froze for a moment. Then he said in disbelief, "Open cranium, it shouldn't be the one I understand, right?" Hushi smiled. The cause of illness is in his brain, and it has reached the point where medicine can't eradicate it, so the only way is to remove it by opening his cranium. You're totally right. Who are you kidding? Someone couldn't help exclaiming. I know so many doctors, but I have never heard of such a treatment. Are you trying to save his honor or murder him? Saying that, the man looked at the white-bearded old man beside him. Dr. Min, you are a rank 9 doctor. Tell me, is there really a treatment of opening cranium in the world? The white-bearded old man shook his head and said, Never heard of it. Did you hear that, boy? Make it clear who sent you. Narrow vision and persecutory delusion. Hushi sneered. The way of healing is endless, let alone opening cranium. Even digging the heart and changing the heart, and opening the abdomen to repair the internal organs are all commonly used surgical techniques. I said that I have my own treatment method. If you don't believe my treatment method, you can ask someone else to treat him. Why am I begging to do such a time-consuming and laborious operation? When she finished, she was about to turn around and leave. This time Uncle Chio and the others were anxious. They hurriedly motioned Wei Qingyuan to hold her. Shiyu, it's not that we don't believe it, but the method of opening cranium is too appalling. Isn't his honor's problem the same as that of Zhang Yi? Why can't we use Zhang Yi's treatment plan? Although people in the cultivation world had long been accustomed to all kinds of strange methods, and they were not as repulsive to surgery as the real ancients, but it's too sensational to open a person's head. Where can there be such a treatment? Hushi shook his head and said, I said earlier that the two of them have different etiologies and similar symptoms. It would be fine if His Honor used Zhang Yi's therapy a month ago. However, His Honor's condition a few years ago was obviously much lighter than that of Zhang Yi. And, Hushi smirked and said slowly, also every time the disease triggers, a doctor will help him to relieve the symptoms with spiritual power, right? Because of this kind of relief compared to Zhang Yi, His Honor has not suffered too much, right? How do you know? How do I know it's not important? Hushi squinted slightly and spun the silver needle in her hand. What's more important is that because of this, His Honor's illness is deteriorating so fast. Even elixir and silver needles are helpless now. As soon as these words came out, everyone present, except the middle-aged man, all looked shocked. Chapter 1265. These old guys and that Dr. Min seemed to think of something, and he shouted in a trembling voice, This is impossible. You don't slander without evidence. Hushi glanced at His Honor. Whether it is impossible, you can ask His Honor if he felt comfortable when treated with spiritual power, but the illness got more and more worse. The trigger cycle also shortens continuously. Even his cultivation is slowly regressing. Dash! Uncle Chio and two of the nascent soul stage people exclaimed. Then they covered their mouths abruptly. The shock in their eyes was self-evident. On the contrary, His Honor, who was assessed by Hushi, looked at Hushi carefully for a long time. Then he waved suddenly. You all go out first. I want to talk to the little guy alone. Your Honor! Dr. Min exclaimed. Your Honor, don't believe this kid's nonsense. Before Dr. Min could finish speaking, he glanced over with a sharp and indifferent gaze. Dr. Min trembled all over in fright, not daring to speak more. Soon, only Hushi and the middle-aged man were left in the house. The middle-aged man closed his eyes, thinking about something. Hushi was very patient. Since the other party didn't speak, she found a place to sit down and poured a cup of tea and drank it slowly. It's been a long time since I've seen a girl as beautiful and talented as you. PFF. Hushi spat out a sip of tea, looking at the middle-aged man with an ugly face. These old guys. How can I forget that? My cheap master also noticed my disguise the first time he saw me. Then my cultivation is surely exposed. The middle-aged man smiled. In my opinion, Lu Shuyang's daughter is far worse than you. If I really want to choose a daughter-in-law, I would rather choose you. Damn. It doesn't mean I will agree to it. Hushi slandered in her mind, but she said with a half-smile. Your Honor, you left me alone to just talk nonsense with me? The middle-aged man's face instantly changed, and his eyebrows were slightly raised as he said casually, "How sure are you?" "I remember I said it, 60%. Of course, if your honor is fully cooperating me, I think at least 70%. The middle-aged man curled his fingers and tapped the chair. "When will it start?" 10 days later, Hashi replied without hesitation. "Surgery is a way of treatment to reveal the vitality of martial artists. It can also be said to be fighting against the fate. So before that, I must adjust your physical condition to the best. Of course, because your next trigger cycle is 2 days away, I also need to regularly remove the spiritual poison accumulated in your head, so that the attack cycle can be delayed for a while." The middle-aged man fell silent for a while. After a long time he raised his head and said solemnly, "Okay, I'll let Qiuqiu give you an inscribed jade slip. After 10 days I hope your surgery will really be as effective as you said, but you should get one thing straight." Before the middle-aged man could finish speaking, Hashi interrupted him with a smile. "If I can't cure you, I will also be buried together with you, right? I already know this. I don't need your reminder." Chapter 1266. Perfect Dantian. The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment, and this time there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. "Then if I'm cured, what kind of reward do you want?" Hashi stretched out a slender finger and shook it. Then she smiled slyly. "For such an important reward, I will ask for it after I cure your honor. I believe a high-status person like your honor won't be stingy to pay the reward that is equivalent of your life, right?" The middle-aged man choked at what she said. Then he laughed. "No one dares to talk to me like this for many years. Then I'll leave first." Hashi smiled and turned to leave. "Wait a minute," the middle-aged man said suddenly. "Opening Cranium means handing over my life to you. Little girl, do you know why I agreed to your treatment plan?" Hashi raised an eyebrow and turned around. "Why?" "Because even in the upper realm Siam continent, I haven't met anyone who advanced to the gold core stage with a perfect chaos Dantian for thousands of years." "What?" Hashi was startled. She said anxiously, "What is the perfect chaos Dantian?" The middle-aged man smiled slightly, until seeing the anxious look of the young man, he realized that the young man in front of him was only 16 years old. When talking about medical skills just now, this young man was honestly not like someone his age. The middle-aged man said, "The promotion of a perfect chaos Dantian is thousands of times more difficult than that of an ordinary Dantian. Most people can't even reach half of the perfection, and they have already entered the pseudo-core stage, then advanced to the gold core stage. Those who reach 90% of the perfection before forming a pseudo-core are already geniuses among geniuses. And you actually entered a 100% perfection pseudo-core stage, and it's even a perfect chaos pseudo-core. Hee, when you form the gold core, I wonder what the earth-shattering scene will be. But of course, the more perfect the pseudo-core, the harder to advance to the gold core stage." "Perfect Dantian? So this is the reason why I can't reach the gold core stage yet?" Hashi still wanted to ask questions, but the middle-aged man waved at her and motioned her to leave. She had to put aside her doubts and temporarily left the Bijing Pavilion. After Hashi and Wei Qingyuan left, Uncle Qiu and the martial artists of nascent soul stage all came in. Uncle Qiu worried. "Your honor, did you really decide to agree with the opening cranium treatment method?" The middle-aged man was silent for a while. Then he spoke faintly. Instead of answering Uncle Qiu's words, he asked a question with a somewhat ironic smile. "Tell me, does Lu Xuyang really not know that my illness trigger cycle has shortened to 2 days?" Uncle Qiu and the others looked at each other with ulgy faces. The smile of the middle-aged man was deeper and colder. "Tell me, does he really not know that his treatment will make my condition worse?" A ferocious-looking nascent soul stage martial artist next to Uncle Qiu whispered, "Your honor, that kid surnamed Lu dared to plot against your honor. I'll get rid of him." The middle-aged man waved his hand and sneered. "No hurry, we can't touch this person now." Hashi, who had parted ways with Wei Qingyuan after leaving the Bijing Pavilion, gently tossed the inscribed jade slip in her hand with a smile. "Finally, we can enter and exit the Bijing Pavilion without hiding." In fact, His Honor's illness didn't require 10 days of recovery at all. After all, the people here were all martial artists who were cultivating. They all had excellent physical fitness. Chapter 1267. Advance payment. Even if she performed the surgery in a place full of dust, as long as the cause was removed, His Honor could still be alive and kicking. These 10 days were mainly reserved for her to explore the Bijing Pavilion and find Wuxia. Shiyu, I finally found you. Hushi had just put the inscribed jade slip into the void when he heard Qian Dazhuang's loud voice behind her. Hushi hadn't seen Qian Dazhuang in a while. Seeing him this time, she found that his cultivation had improved a lot. Although it was not that much, his spiritual power had become much purer. Moreover, his face no longer looked cynical, but instead he had the cheerfulness and wanton of a big fool. As soon as Qian Dazhuang ran to Shiyu, he respectfully handed over the storage bag in his hands. Boss asked me to give this to you. Hushi looked into the storage bag. Surely, it was some magical beast meat and monster essence pill. Although the highest was only rank 4 magical beast, the number was really quite a lot. Qian Dazhuang rubbed his head and said with a smile, "In the past few days, we have done a lot of missions with our classmates from the Huang Medical Branch. These people are really stupid and useless, but they are very obedient and hardworking. There are still some gains." Hushi smiled slightly and threw the storage bag into the void without hesitation. Little Egg and the others would naturally handle these ingredients. Afterward, she took out 2 bottles of medicinal pills and handed them to Qian Dazhuang. 1 bottle is for Meridian stage and 1 bottle is for Gold Core stage. No. Qian Dazhuang waved his hands in fright. Shiyu, you have already helped us enough. Everyone in Huang Medical Branch is grateful for your help. Everyone agrees to give these magical beast meats and monster essence pills to you. Hushi shook her head and said, "Take it as an advance payment. In the future, you can send all the magical beasts you hunted to me. The higher the rank, the better the medicinal pills I provide." Really? Qian Dazhuang was very pleasantly surprised when he heard this. The medicinal pills in Shiyu's hands were all from Shengda Hall. Not to mention the best quality ones. Even the upper grade pills couldn't be simply bought, but they could exchange them with magical beast meat? Of course it's true. Hushi wanted to laugh at his stupid look. You can also tell everyone from the Huang Medical Branch about this. But forget about the people in the other branches. She had no interest in providing medicinal pills to those who criticized and slandered her when she was in trouble. That's great. I will tell Xiaofeng and the others now. Qian Dazhuang jumped 3 feet with joy. Ha. If those bastards in the 4 upper courtyards find out, they will be envious of our Huang Medical Branch. I'm going to take on more missions. Fighting was the best way to improve strength. Hushi of course would not stop him, but she still reminded, "Be careful, don't take mission beyond your ability. In addition, let Jinziyu use my medicine to regulate his body. Don't simply let him use spiritual power. If I find out that he forces himself again, tell him, he doesn't want to taste the punishment." The young man had a beautiful face and a bright smile, but Qian Dazhuang felt a chill down his spine when he saw her smiling face. "Shiyu, don't worry, we will definitely keep an eye on the boss and won't let him act rashly." As he said that, remembering Hushi's promise just now, he happily took the medicinal pills and ran away. Chapter 1268. Tong Bing? After Qian Dazhuang left, the fighting spirit and enthusiasm of Huang Medical Branch, which had been extinguished, revived like a prairie fire. For a time, the students of Huang Medical Branch were showing in the Immortal Mission Hall all the time. For the first time, people from other branches tasted the jealousy and hatred toward Huang Medical Branch. Of course, these were all later stories. Hushi returned to her dormitory and was about to enter the yard enchantment. Suddenly, there was a loud quarrel in front of the hut not far away. "Get out, we don't welcome you here. You guys are too much. Why are you throwing all my things out?" Hushi was startled and stopped. Just now, she seemed to have heard the voice of an acquaintance. After walking a few steps forward, she quickly the few people who were arguing. Standing in the courtyard were 3 Huang Medical Branch students. All of them were about 10-year-olds, and were at the peak of the meridian stage. The person who was arguing with them had fallen to the ground at this time. His bed and bedding were thrown on the ground. Hushi recognized at a glance the boy who fell to the ground. He had a handsome face and big teary eyes. He was actually Tongbing, who had disappeared before the first round of assessment. Tongbing's face was covered in tears at this time. He was holding his quilt and an ancient book in his hands, and he stared angrily at the 3 in front of him with tears. One of the 3 young boys sneered and looked at him with contempt. "Why drive you away? Just because you are shameless and got admitted through the back door. It is an insult to let you live in a dormitory with us." Tongbing retorted loudly with tears. "I didn't come in through the back door. You're slandering." "Hee, I slander you?" The other boy leaned on the door and sneered. "Then tell me, how did you get in? I don't remember someone like you in this freshman." Hearing this, Tongbing was speechless. The man said again, "Or you can show your cultivation. If you are like Shiyu, who can defeat the gold core stage with the foundation establishment stage, we won't have anything even if you came in through back door." "Yeah," another boy sneered. "No matter how bad it is, your medical skills are always better than others, right? Or do you have any special talents? As long as you can convince us, we can let you stay. Dare to show it?" Tongbing was about to cry. In his mind he couldn't help thinking, "Shiyu? Could it be the Mr. Shi I knew?" When the 3 boys from Huang Medical Branch saw him like this, they were even more convinced that he came in through the back door. They immediately ridiculed. "Even if our Huang Medical Branch is at the bottom of the school, we don't welcome a student who comes in through the back door. If you want to live in our dormitory, you have to show us your strength." After speaking, 2 of the boys had already waved their sleeves disdainfully as if brushing off some dust, and walked into the room with a sneer. But the last boy looked at Tongbing coldly. "You better don't step into our courtyard. Otherwise, we will break your legs." After saying that, the door slammed shut. Tongbing sat on the cold ground in a daze. The students in other courtyards also came out, ridiculing and pointing at Tongbing. Tongbing's face flushed with shame, and tears slid down his cheeks. Chapter 1269. Confused the quilts around him that were crumpled and full of footprints. He didn't know whether to pick it up. He could only sit there helplessly, looking extremely pitiful. Tongbing was about to get up when a pair of feet suddenly appeared in front of him. He was startled, thinking that someone was going to bully him again. He raised his head and was about to step back, but after seeing the appearance of the person coming, he immediately exclaimed in surprise, "Mr. Shi, why are you here?" But he immediately thought of something, and he said with a look of surprise and joy, "What nonsense am I talking about? Mr. Shi is so good. Of course you passed the assessments. Mr. Shi, I'm also a student of the Miracle Healer Academy. It's great to be able to study with you in the future." Hushi was no less surprised than Tongbing. After testing spiritual root that day, he never appeared again. With his cultivation and aptitude, it is impossible to enter the Miracle Healer Academy? Besides, why did he come out now? Hushi asked. "I didn't see you on the qualifying list. How did you get into Miracle Healer Academy? Where did you go before?" Tongbing's eyes flickered. He hugged his quilt, lowered his head, and said with a slightly guilty expression, "The elder of the academy asked me to help with something. After I finished it, he gave me a chance to study in the academy." Hushi raised his eyebrows. Seeing that Tongbing didn't want to say more, she didn't ask any more questions. But she was very puzzled. What can the elder do with the foundation establishment stage? Moreover, until now, Tongbing's spiritual power is still very weak. He doesn't look like he can be admitted into the Miracle Healer Academy at all. Tongbing seemed to remember something as he raised his head and said, "Mr. Shi, which branch are you from?" "Huang Medical Branch." Huang Medical Branch was the worst branch of Miracle Healer Academy, but Tongbing thought that Hushi only had a foundation establishment stage like him, so he didn't doubt it. He immediately said excitedly, "Mr. Shi, do you also live in this dormitory? Can I live with you?" Hushi shook her head. The allocation of dormitories is not something I can decide. Not to mention her quirky roommate, the inscribed jade slip that entered each dormitory barrier was different. Although this barrier was not strong, it wasn't feasible to forcibly break the barrier every time he went in and out of the dormitory. The excited look on Tong Bing's face immediately turned into frustration and disappointment. He said expectantly, "Mr. Shi, can you help me think of a way? You have also seen that if I live with other people, I will definitely be bullied. Besides, I really want to live with you." Hushi just brought Tong Bing to the management office that was in charge of the replacement dormitory. When the officer Hushi, he immediately greeted her with a smile. If one looked closely, he could see that there was a hint of fear in his eyes. This guy brings nothing but disaster. Because he was assigned to the Huang No. 1 dormitory, we have already suffered countless punishments. Hushi didn't beat around the bushes as she pointed at Tong Bing behind her and said, "Is there any free dormitory at Huang Medical Branch? Arrange one for him." Without waiting for Tong Bing to speak, he waved his hand and said, "I will leave now. If you have any questions, you can come to the Huang Medical Branch or the library to find me." "Mr. Shi, I don't want to live in an empty dormitory. I want to live with you," Tong Bing shouted anxiously. However, Shiyu had long disappeared. Chapter 1270. Tong Bing's request. Seeing Shiyu leaving, the smile on the officer's face turned into disgust. "You're the Foundation establishment stage trash who came in through the back door recently, right? TCH. I was wondering how you, a piece of shit, can stay in the Miracle Healer Academy. It turns out that you ride on Shiyu's coattails." "I'm not a trash, and I'm not riding anyone's coattails." Tong Bing trembled in anger. His voice had a sobbing tone. "I'm a Foundation establishment stage like Shiyu. Why should I ride on his coattails? I came in with my own strength." The officer was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed with contempt and disdain. He looked at Tong Bing as if he was looking at an idiot. "Foundation establishment stage like Shiyu? Ha ha ha. You think you have the qualifications to be compared with Shiyu? What do you think you are?" Another officer saw that what he said was going too far. He came over and gave him a break. He whispered, "Don't talk about it. This person was brought in by Shiyu. Maybe he has a good relationship with Shiyu. If Shiyu knows you humiliating him, who knows how that plague will torment us." As soon as he said this, the officer immediately restrained himself with a look of panic in his eyes. Then, seeing that there was no sign of Hushi around, he snorted coldly and threw out an inscribed jade slip. "Nah, you are lucky. A mere Foundation establishment stage trash can even live a courtyard alone." But Tong Bing didn't pick up the inscribed jade slip. He widened his eyes and said stubbornly, I want to live in a dormitory with Mr. Shi. I know that Huang No. 1 dormitory only has 2 people now. I don't want a courtyard alone." "You want to live in Huang No. 1 dormitory?" The officer scratched his ears with a look of disbelief. Tong Bing nodded heavily. I want to live with Shiyu. I want to learn from him." "Ha ha. Idiot, you aren't afraid of death?" The officer laughed out loud. The other officer who had just persuaded him also showed a mocking look. "Do you think a nobody like you can simply stay in Huang No. 1 dormitory?" Tong Bing widened his eyes in confusion and looked at the people who mocked him with contempt. The depression and anger in his heart made him slowly clench his fists. "Why can Shiyu live, but I can't?" The officer sneered and said sinisterly, "Okay, if you want to live, I will fulfill your wish. But when you become a corpse and get thrown out, don't blame me for being cruel." The other officer explained with a cold face, "I advise you not to fool around if you know what you are doing. Except for Shiyu, no one in Huang No. 1 dormitory can come out intact after living in it. The other resident who lives there is 100 times more terrifying than Shiyu." "But Shiyu clearly lives there." Tong Bing clenched his fists and muttered. Confusion and panic flashed across his eyes, but he quickly regained his determination. "I want to live in Huang No. 1 dormitory. I must live there." "TC. You are really ungrateful." The officer looked at his companion and sneered. "We have already advised you. If you suffer, Don't complain to Shiyu that it was our fault. Don't worry, I've recorded his words just now with recording stone. Even if he complains to Shiyu, it's not our fault. He asked for it, haha. Chapter 1271. Who let you in? Tong Bing, holding the inscribed jade slip in his hand, returned to the dormitory area of Huang Medical Branch with a pale face. It was quiet in front of Huang No. 1 dormitory. All the Huang Medical Branch students would avoid this place, as if this was a restricted area, the most noble and mysterious place in the entire Huang Medical Branch. Tong Bing's heart skipped a beat. Looking at the simple house in the courtyard, a strong desire surged in his heart. At this moment, someone saw Tong Bing's figure and looked shocked when he walked towards Huang No. 1 dormitory with an inscribed jade slip. Isn't this the Tong Bing who came in through the back door? Why is he standing in front of Huang No. 1 dormitory? I heard that he was kicked out by the people in the No. 4 dormitory. He should have found someone to change the dormitory. Could it be? No way? Want to get into Huang No. 1 dormitory? Does he want to die? For a moment, it seemed as if everyone from the Huang Medical Branch who was still in the dormitory came out and pointed at Tong Bing. Each of them had a look of contempt and schadenfreude on their faces. Tong Bing's eyes turned red again. He gritted his teeth, avoided the unbearable gazes, lowered his head and rushed into the Huang No. 1 dormitory. This time, everyone was shocked. The trash who came in through the back door really walked in? Did he not want to live? However, a quarter of an hour has passed, and the trash has not been driven out. Half an hour passed, but there was still no movement in the courtyard. What's the matter? Did Xianmu change? No longer kicking people out of the dormitory? Yeah. I can still understand that Xiyu didn't get kicked out after he went in. Why is this kid fine too? Is it because Xianmu isn't here? Are you stupid? In the past, even if Xianmu wasn't around, someone who entered the dormitory would be tortured by the enchantment inside and thrown out. Could it be that Huang No. 1 dormitory is no longer a forbidden place? Outside the small courtyard, everyone was discussing, but in the dormitory, Tong Bing touched the natural silk quilt on Shiyu's bed with eyes full of admiration. He looked around and saw the spirit-gathering array not far away in his eyes. When he walked to the center, he only felt a strong spirit coming toward his face. It was completely different from other places in Huang Medical Branch where the air was turbid, and the concentration of spiritual power was average. Just like the downtown area in Miracle Healer City, to be able to live in this dormitory with Shiyu is really great. Tong Bing remembered those people who said that the other owner of this dormitory was fierce, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Then he immediately clenched his fist. As long as I behave well, Shiyu and the person named Xianmu will definitely accept me. So for the next half an hour, he carefully cleaned the inside and outside of the dormitory, especially the beds of Xianmu and Shiyu. The quilts on them were neatly stacked. He also rearranged the material shelves next to the pill refining furnace. His cultivation was not high, and his spiritual root was not pure, so he couldn't use spells to clean. But he believed that pure manual work would definitely convey his heart better. A bright smile appeared on Tong Bing's face. At this moment, a man's low voice suddenly came from the door. Who let you in? Tong Bing was taken aback. He didn't feel the man's aura at all. When he looked up, he only saw a tall man with the sun behind his back. The stern face was hidden in the shadow, looking at him coldly. Chapter 1272. What happened? I'm your new roommate. My name is Tong Bing. Tong Bing felt the man's strong oppression, and his breathing became hard. You are Senior Xianmu, right? I'm very happy to live in the same dorm as you. Xianmu looked around. His eyes suddenly drooped slightly, revealing a hint of cold killing intent. Did you touch me and she used things? I just saw that the dormitory was a little messy, so I cleaned it up. Tong Bing only felt as if he was soaked in ice water, making him shudder, but he still tried to express something. In the future, I will clean the dormitory. Get lost. A low, cold shout interrupted Tong Bing's stuttering words. Tong Bing trembled all over his body. His enthusiasm was immersed in the cold water. He raised his eyes and looked pitifully at the tall man in front of him. I just want a place to live. Before Tong Bing's words were finished, Xianmu waved his hand, and Tong Bing only felt a strong force coming. His body was thrown out. With a loud bang, Tong Bing slammed into the ground heavily, only feeling the pain of the bones falling apart. Immediately afterward, something fell from the sky and covered his head. Tong Bing pulled it off, but what he saw was the sheets and quilt he had just made, and 2 pieces of clothes that he had just taken out and prepared to put on later. Tong Bing stared blankly at his bedding and clothes. Tears were rolling in his eyes. I told you. Everyone except Xiyu will be thrown out by Xianmu, right? Who does this trash think he is? Does he really think that anyone can live in the Huang No. 1 dormitory? That's right. Xianmu is a monster, and Xiyu is also an amazing genius. Only these 2 people are qualified to live in the same dormitory. This group of people from the Huang Medical Branch were feeling proud in the Miracle Healer Academy because of Xiyu. Moreover, because they followed Qian Dazhuang and others to take the missions, they not only got points, some of them even got the medicinal pills of the Shengda Hall. So over time, Xiyu's status in the hearts of these people was getting higher and higher, coupled with Xiyu's unparalleled strength that she had already shown to everyone, who was still not convinced by her. So even knowing that Xianmu was willing to let Xiyu live in a dormitory, they took it for granted. But who was this Tong Bing? He also wanted to live in the Huang No. 1 dormitory? Tong Bing was being pointed at by the crowd. His tears streamed down his cheeks and his body was trembling slightly. He looked really pitiful. At this moment, a clear voice of a young man suddenly came from outside the crowd. What are you all doing around the door of my courtyard? As soon as this voice appeared, the people who were watching and laughing at Tong Bing were immediately startled. Almost instinctively, everyone stepped back and made way. Many people bowed at the young man with expressions of reverence and gratitude on their faces. Xiyu, you came back from the library so early today? She nodded. When she was about to enter her courtyard, she suddenly saw Tong Bing sitting on the ground crying. What is going on? Did I time travel or I have an illusion? Why do I feel that I had just seen this scene a few hours ago? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.